seven baritone solos.
Shem.
Yes, I know. I'm kidding. Where is he?
Right here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was looking around and going, "You stop right here." So Shem is the feature of the evening, and here's the thing. I was at the word party last night, and he was the feature there.
Yeah.
And they're going to be doing some work on the foundation, I understand. He did rock the place, and there's some cracks now, and some of the things. It's not happening. But it's not his. They didn't believe it was him. When people are jumping up and down by the hundreds, and doing the whole. Never mind. This guy, I always say he's jazzy. He is. Word poet, that's true too. He sometimes takes us on trips from word to phrase. It's amazing. And to some extent, he reminds me of David Moe. Not completely David Moe, but has that aspect up to him. I don't know. You ever heard David Moe read?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. We did. Anyway, so not quite like David, but he has his own style, and it's really good. It's very enjoyable, very entertaining. And then he slips those things into your subconscious conscious, and you don't even know until you wait a minute, I'm not going to do that anymore. Why? Shem read that poem. Oh, Jesus. So you're about to have a little bit of adjustment done to your psyche, and let him come up here and do that for you. Come on up here, Shem. Oh! And we got to make sure this is correct. All right, and I'll give you a 5-minute warning, or 3 minutes, how many minutes did I get? You got 20, and I'll give you okay. Yeah, give him a round of applause. Come on, you people out there. What's wrong with you? Come on already. Didn't I tell you?
All right, so the pond scum theme will be covered in the last poem. There's a character in there in the later part of the long poem that people who were there last night probably will recognize as pond scum. But I did write something this afternoon based on the circular reading theme. Maybe Roland Kirk couldn't see, but with a reed in his mouth, he could breathe circles around your reading circles.
Yeah.
Lived his life immersed in the three-sided dream time, multi-instrumentalist, yes, but simultaneous no less. Made his moves deep inside the groove, a curving and continuous didgeridoo drone vibrational gateway to a millenary collective unconscious.
Woo!
Interwoven with strident melody, subtle harmony, grabs you by the ear and tugs you by the spirit. When you hear it, you stop reading words with your eyes and start to read the world with your heart. If that's a gimmick, it's an artful one. I wish I had the talent and discipline to mimic. So I'm skipping Ladies in Waiting because I don't have enough time. But I'm going to do this longer one that was actually one of the themes a while back. I think the Sanderell did. It was the divider or the divisadero or something like that. This is called Dividers and Their Diversions. Dividers come in handy to distinguish and decipher, categorize and catalog, set criteria and parameters, tease out characteristics, separate the things so we can grasp them. Rulers and despots surely must be grateful for their clerks and analysts, systems and structures, templates, forms, procedures, keeping everything shipshape and up to date. If you can break a thing apart into constituent ingredients, file a patent on those parts and the formula to form the thing you broke apart in the first place, rebrand its newly minted existence and trademark your branding. Branding, an interesting word choice. Smell of seared flesh comes to mind. Then it's yours to do with as you will. All of Gaul is divided into 3 parts, declared conquering Julius in a moment of strategic imperial brilliance. Later these same Gauls, having been suchly divided, conquered, and acculturated, grabbed their swords and shield, hawked their homelands to the priests with a newfangled document called a deed of trust, and in the name of a Christian God stole land back for the Holy Cross of the Roman Catholic Church. Crusaders at the crossroads, sharpening their crosses, have had the rest of us in their crosshairs for a while now. Time and again they've doubled down, re-upped their schism mission to rent us asunder, feed the festering fissures between us, assure the final outcome, a scarification of false dichotomies. East and west, north and south, white and black, him and her, us and them, self and other, mind and body, man and nature, Romans and Philistines, Europeans and everybody else, heaven, hell, and back again. Once the portal opened, Americans came in droves with their deeds and new diseases to infect, rob, murder people who had already been here since time immemorial. Acculturate their young, kill off their cultures, cutting children off from their families and mother tongues, kidnapping them and hauling them off to boarding schools and orphanages. European settler Australians and Canadians performed this civilizing Christian service for their respective indigenous hosts as well. These industrious pilgrims broke everyone and everything down to their salient, manipulable, exploitable parts to sell, kill, burn, consume in the name of manifest destiny. Across the Great Divide they came in swarms, first the trappers and the traders, then the wagon trains with families and dreams in tow. The Rockies slowed them down a bit. Rough, mountainous upswellings, part of the ridgeback of the Americas, spanning 2 continents from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego, grand divider of tectonic plates and oceans. If the planet had a spinal cord, it would be this chain of mountains. Pioneers, outcasts, and outlaws came crawling across these steep, young, craggy ranges, often starving and feeding off each other in desperation along the way. The power-hungry, gluttonous, adventure-seeking conqueror minds set on destruction and consumption kept coming, no matter the odds of success, insatiable. Divide and conquer, eat or be eaten, survival of the fittest was and still is their interpretation of the underlying nature of creation, a lie that successfully divided us from ourselves, giving birth to the neo-Darwinist, post-Protestant, individualist, consumer capitalist conundrum we find ourselves now trapped in. But the miracle of life's true beginning was a wondrously elegant division. Amoeboid meiosis, divide and multiply its strategy. The differentiating formula of cross-pollination got thrown into the mix a little later, give or take a few 100,000 years or so. Life's seeds learn to cross over from one to the other, collide, divide, multiply into miraculous multicellular configurations. Mitosis, the key to greater variety and complexity. Couplings and interminglings, an assortment of odd accidents and gendered features able to fit in to any and all emerging niches, do that evolutionary drift thing between organisms and their environments, most often more like a conversation than a competition. Copulation, communication, commingling, consensual cooperation, counterintuitive to the contemporary concept of a mind-body split. But it only takes one person with any random stick to draw a line in the sand, soil, gravel, snow, or silt terrain, depending, to commit the violent act, within which is contained the threat of more violence toward whomever has been delimited and denigrated to the status of being on the wrong side of that line. Don't cross my line, don't hop my fence, don't poke holes in my granary, don't take what's mine is the first act of theft, necessitating all further acts of theft by those cordoned off by the initial demarcating act of theft. In the primordial state, undifferentiated, we all belong. Property as a concept, still alien, inapprehensible. It's only in that first negation contained in the words mine, not yours, where the cycle of violent thievery can even be conceived. This one's called Apocalypsing on the Funk. Grandiloquent mendicants, megalomaniac transients, altruistic narcissists, interest-seeking, self-leavening breadwinners, high-fidelity, ingratiating, state-of-the-artful dodgers, blurry, inkblot, ledger-mildewed, melancholy narcoleptics, dyspeptic, dropsy-turvy, dovetail-back current gliders, sluggish dervishes, sloughed-off serpentine whirlwind, aching backspin, voices left hoarse and riderless, godless mystic impossibility addicts, accursed shareholders, spunky chasm spelunkers, knocked up and swelling with unknowable inevitables, rims spent and spokeless on forgotten go-kart ghost axles, axes askew, terra and firma intemperate, temperature rising, Jobless, lumpen, spandrel masses, washed up shoreline garbage truckers, indigent, sword-swallowing bandersnatchers, intransigent, Luddite, sneak thief, loan sharking transactors, huckster, hustlers, plumb out of marks and angles and bobbles. Ronnie and the meek shall inherit the great toxic soup dumpling, and the ruling elites with no one left to lord over and nothing left to do in, shield themselves behind gilded cages designated and delineated by algorithmetric predictability, and the children of the biodome certainty pod castration chambers, drawn down and in by an ache for an encounter with some sort of realness, slip through forgotten service corridors and tunnels, escape out into the open, join the so-called garbage dump people of the wasteland who toil and struggle and strive together in anarchic extended families attendant to the nature of mutuality and co-creation and survive this 6,000-year blip called civilization.
So-called!
This is sort of a romantic and nostalgic one. It's like I pulled from a journal I wrote in when I was 19 years old. I just kind of turned it into something. So anyway, it's kind of earnest and romantic. It's called Blue Polka Dot Dress. Remember when I was inside your blue polka dot dress? My arms coming out from the sleeveless shoulders, almost like being inside of you. That night for me, you became your polka dot dress, deep blue with creamy white dots, some larger, some smaller, a play of contrasts, giving rise to floating, ephemeral shadow dots, even deeper, darker blue, coming and going, there and not there, swirling in front of my eyes, overwhelming my senses, mesmerizing in their sliding away fleetingness, never allowing me to focus my attention for too long. Those dark, dancing, polka-dotted mirages existing for the briefest of instances in my sense perception. But I wasn't looking for a freeze frame. I didn't want you to give up your shadow dots to my vision. I just wanted to touch you in that clean white dot that you had spoken of. The one you made as big as the world so you could leap into it and take comfort there in your imaginary safe space. I wanted to be able to touch you like an angel might, without becoming the cause of any more suffering, and with an infinite capacity to take in all the pain and just let it slide away like shifting shadow dots as I danced before you from inside your polka dot dress. Yes, it was with precisely this kind of love that I wished to touch you, if recollection and a few blurry water-damaged lines from an old blue spiral ring notebook can be counted on to contain some shred of truth. About 9. All right, I'll go fast. All right, this is the long poem. So the pond scum is in here somewhere.
The pond scum is in this one?
He's in there, yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I get all excited.
All right, this is called Blue Luck Inverted. Blue luck inverted, an upside-down four-leaf clover, purplish, more red than dead, but still no better off for time spent in service. Overgrown and sulky, stuck in a quagmire, rowing in place in a tinny little boat. Nostalgic for a dream that seemed like destiny at the time, but never really manifested. True love converted, like a Sephardic Jew who, in order not to get caught in the snare of a Spanish inquisitor's plot and the attendant innovations and devices of a burgeoning trade in torture, surmises it would be wiser to hold his tongue, hide his faith and pride inside, resort to artifice and bide his time. Identity deflowered by a lustily papal penetration, architectonically tonifying its rapaciousness, consciousness invaders, creators of a new self, erected for the sole gratification of an expanding avarice. Empire churches gone wild, drunk on success, newly minted mental prison interior design services reconfiguring her every thought, impulse, and urge with interrogative precision. Queen Anne laced them up good when her turn came around. Kingdoms united in perpetuity, a couple of fat blood sausages and a sizable annuity. Set them up and lay them down, said the fat lady with the crown, and the wigatory two-party system sales caught a gust. To prime the pump and stump the growing throat lump of hungry masses still wallowing in filth into swallowing this bill of goods. Lump sum trust funds accruing interest for the well-fed landed gentry and their ilk. A pint of gin, a lump of coal, a crust of bread for the work-weary kept them bleary and consenting. A leaky lean-to with a single cot and a pot to piss in. Just enough time to get drunk, fuck, and pass out before it's back to heavy lifting on the docks if they had any kind of pull at all with Lady Luck, and thusly thrust into the future, feverish and blustery, a couple of conventional two-party parties. The truest, bluest pimps and panderers and their bestest bottom bitches. Party like hardened arteries stoned to the kidneys. Donors, freshly harvested, organs kept on ice for any on-the-fly transplant needs that might arise. The most heroic super savior surgeons that beck and call in the back hall with the rest of the charming hostesses and servants. Put them up and knock them down, a soul cry to the peons propped up on pedestals, precariously poised in the neon night. Pull them down and drag them in by their ears to the center of the ring with all the rest, the dispossessed and disenfranchised, demoralized and depoliticized. Get them crazed, enraged, and frenzied, and let them feed a little cinnamon and molasses, a little razzmatazz for they hungry asses, a little snake oil sales charm mixed in with just the right amount of false alarm to keep them distracted from what's really going on from the top of a soapbox or a milk crate at the corner of an empty lot on the edge of a sidewalk by a sewer grate. A little scorched earth birthright song and dance to fan the flames of hate and fear enough to put them in a trance, keep those fires burning, hungering for the flesh of a new scapegoat to sear and tear and rip to shreds, or at least keep them blind to the chains around their brains, squinting into the sun to catch a glimpse of what? Promises of greener pastures, always over the next hill or just out of sight past the horizon line. 15 minutes of fame simulates a satiating point of reference, sufficient significance for any fly-by-night meaning seeker to make their nest in. Gas chamber heat, clocked eternal cinder slumbers in mind-numbing, soul-searing numbers. Gas chamber heat, clocked eternal cinder slumbers in mind-numbing, soul-searing numbers. Early in and last to leave, easy bake furnace maintenance worker said, just doing my job as he clocked out from another graveyard shift. Somebody's got to tend these fires, work those extra hours, make that overtime pay, why not me? Genocide, the new quotidian humdrum beat with a mushroom cloud alarm clock. Front parlor pushed past the threshold, out into the street, professionalized. Birth and death reallocated to hospitals and funeral homes, relegated to the edges of awareness, left to fester unattended as we learn to feel a little more anxious and disgusted by all the gory details of childbirth. Let the doctors drug us up and cut us, bottle feed our babies formula for our convenience, Similac children living in the simulacra, and death, not just to fear it, but resent it with a vengeance, like we ought to be able to stave it off and live forever or some such nonsense. Duped by psychological fear-desire ad campaigns, we hand over our miraculous beginnings and sacred endings, transmogrified, squeaky clean, sold back to us repackaged, indispensable services we never knew we needed. Next on the agenda, the living room takeover, domesticity rebranded and repurposed, a fabulous Technicolor makeover. TV sets, TV dinners in bright orange tang, the drink of the astronauts and teenagers, troubled youth, rebels without causes ad nauseum would never have been plausible before. Sectionals, hi-fi stereos, family rooms and great rooms, Pop-Tarts, space programs, a car in every driveway, college campus doors open just a little wider, a new chance to be the first in your family with a university degree. A real opportunity to stretch out adolescence, remodel and refurbish internal mental spaces, mold and craft and fabricate the perfect consumer, special, precious, important, and hollow in the center, like an individually wrapped fingerling sponge cake with a big black hole where they put the cream in. A never-ending supply of need to fill, over and over and over and over and over and over and over ad infinitum. Now that's some great fucking marketing. We learned to yearn for the flush of freedom we felt from an open sky rolling by on a well-paved stretch of highway, soon clouded over by smog, but we kept driving anyway to catch that rush of wind in our faces from behind the wheel of a large automobile, careening recklessly down crumbling roadways into the jammed-up gridlock of the present, and wondering how we ever got here in the first place. Keep the Manichaean machinations churning, the elemental extraction contraptions keep them pumping, bumping, and scraping all the fracking crude they can to the last drop and all the metals. Precious, semi-precious or not, but it doesn't really matter, does it? As long as we keep pulling this shit out of the ground, we can still get this easy money. They chortle giddily, gleeful fist bumps and ass slaps all around. Complicit, in agreement with their greedy logic, not to get while the getting is good, but just be stupid. Guns, gas, gold, minerals, coal, diamonds soaked in blood. From the Fertile Crescent to Africa to the South Pacific to Alaska to the Appalachians, and with a little more snow melt to beyond the Arctic, circle jerks with their O faces on full tilt, pushing it into the hilt, squeezing out every last iota of exploitable materia prima, going nuts, busting through the ceilings of the quota packages. A lewd concoction for a post-apocalyptic cocktail glass filled to the rim. Drug your dreams. Imprison your conscience, murder your profits, always keep a keen eye on your next quarter's profit margin, and remember to keep all those miscreants and malcontents on the margin. Promote your protean proto-homo sapiens aggressors as they brown-nose and bully their way into executive suites like bulldozing bulldogs with bullhorns and a penchant for laying waste to make way for glistening new glass buildings to beat and scrape the sky with. And a certain weakness for a good con, an artful cheat, and the strong arm of a heavy-handed thief. Everybody wants to be czar or kaiser or king or whatever. Pond scum alert. But this one likes to daydream about opening up a chain-link fenced-in zone for golf course midway mega malls along every underexploited coastline from North Korea to Kazakhstan so he can relaunch Orange Julius with his too much beta-carotene and his skin cream fat face as the mascot, and maybe sponsor a local sports team or two so he can get a fanfare parade whenever he rolls through, add fun new items to the menu like Caesar salad to pass the time and keep from losing interest, and special Twitter-tweet incentive treats for return customers to drum up business, and he could dole out ridiculously puny severance packages to all the little people he'd get to fire. And flat-screen camera eyes disguised as framed portraits of his favorite fascists would hang on all the walls for every passerby to admire. Twitter, Tweety, Twitty-twoo, an absent-minded grin, drool dribbling lazily from his chubby orange chin, just some smarmy carny with a certain Elmer Fudd-type swagger, who somehow sneakily snaked his way into the big top center ring, much to the chagrin of the box seat bigwigs, bankrolling the whole shindig, pulling a fast one and pulling off his ugly fuck you pimp performance, the I am Donald J. Trump, billionaire, I own a hotel chain, a couple of skyscrapers, I have my own TV show, and I'm the goddamn president, and I'm gonna kill that wascally wabbit if it's the last thing I do. Or so they'd have you think, as he brazenly declares national debt bankruptcy to the IMF, seizing all public assets with his pudgy, pussy-grabbing digits, awkwardly fidgeting and blurting random rants at White House press conferences like some overblown, signifying infant orangutan. But pretty soon now, most likely, the masters of war and disaster who really run this shit show, their bean counter number crunchers calculating daily, blowback resilience, capacity projections, will let him down from his high seat, give him a clean bill of sale and a fresh bib and send him packing. Inaugurate the next distractingly captivating bad actor to star in this money laundering, live streaming, electoral political, survival island reality series still erroneously referred to by some as a representative democracy in action. Until what? We flip the clover over again. Rise together in unison, reclaim our better natures, Homo sapiens, almonds, out here in the commons. One can only hope, keep alive, and stay afloat.
Let's